Welcome one, welcome all to the greatest show of them all, the NFC Beast Mixtape. You can listen to this show on any one of SB Nation's NFC East podcast networks. That is Blogging the Boys for Dallas Cowboys coverage, Bleeding Green Nation for Philadelphia Eagles, Big Blue View for the New York Football Giants, or Hogs Haven for Washington Commanders. You can also watch us on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We are very excited here. It is Tuesday, January 17th for us as we record. I say us. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from BGN. I am RJ Ochoa from BTB. Brandon, NFC Beast, baby. We coined it. Nobody else.
It is really sad to see all these people acting like they invented this phrase. And then people, when you tweet it out like it did, and you try to let people know that, they're like, no, actually, this person did. It's like, no, they didn't actually do that. And but I will say, RJ, what a historic feat this is. The fact that 3 teams in the same division have made it this far into the divisional round in the playoffs. That's crazy, especially when you consider where this division was at just a couple years ago,
just last year. People, I mean, I know that they had 2 playoff teams, but they both got bounced in the first round, and people were still kind of cracking the NFC East jokes. But you're right, it was just 2 years ago that the NFC East winner had a below 500 record. So life can change very quickly. You said this point. This is literally the last point where you can have 3 teams from one division in the playoffs. So they've made it as far as they possibly could. The Commanders couldn't carry their end of the bargain. That would be truly wild if you had a Final Four that was all 4 teams in the division. If we had to pick one team to join the Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants, would we not have picked the Niners due to our connection to Rob Stats Guerrera?
It is pretty funny. And I do want to, if I didn't, did I say second? The second time this has ever happened? It's actually third.
It is. There was some confusion, and there was the tweet you sent me, and I had a back and forth with that individual on late Monday night.
Denise Selman, yeah.
That was incorrect. So I think it's 1997 was the last time that this happened. It was the old NFC Central. Is that correct? Right. I think you have it in front of you.
The Packers, the Vikings, and the Buccaneers. So It's only the third time. Crazy that's only ever happened in the NFC. And 2 out of the 3 times it's been this division. Who cares about that fake? That's not even a real division anymore. So
the 97 one was the NFC Central. You just mentioned that. The other instance, though, because this is one in and of itself, was 1992 when the Cowboys and Eagles were both in the playoffs, and they met one another in the divisional round at Texas Stadium. And the Washington franchise at the time was there as well. The Cowboys obviously won the Super Bowl. And the Niners were in that playoff mix as well. That was actually before Monday night, that was the most recent road playoff win for the Cowboys franchise. But ever see one of those like memes or whatever that's like somebody's like, last day I pooped my pants, and there's like a day counter, and it says like 3,000. You've never seen these like little jokes? Like it's like somebody has like a whiteboard and it says
the
like
counter, sure, but why that example?
You've never seen like on TikTok, like it's like, I guess the more popular one is like most recent like office incident or whatever.
Right.
Then
That's
somebody
what I
like
have gone right. Instead of pooping your pants.
Whatever. Well, the Bucks pooped their pants on Monday night. But anyway, the counter has been reset for the Cowboys as far as road playoff wins. We do have 3 teams in the divisional round in the division. Just an incredible year for the NFC East Mixtape. We have a very hectic week. So just to kind of lay things out, and it's been a busy day for me. So Brandon and I are kind of planning this here in the moment on the fly. In a brief moment, kind of a long moment, Ed Valentine, a Big Blue View, is going to join us on this episode of the Mixtape to talk about the Giants and Eagles game that we're going to see on Saturday night. We've never done this before, what we're trying to do, and that is literally have Ed join us mid-conversation, just to give everyone a peek behind the curtain. It makes it easier to edit this in post-production, so hopefully we land this plane. But so that is episode 1 of 2 this week, Brandon. What is the second NFC East Mixtape that people are getting?
Well, I think people will be very excited to get probably our most loyal listener on the podcast, on the show, and that is one Rob Stats Guerrera. So basically, it's a NFC East version of the Look Ahead, which is what the podcast really should be named, the Friday SB Nation NFL show, where we look ahead to all the games, except we're going to bring Stats in to our turf here and mess with them and talk about the Eagles, or I'm sorry, the 49ers Cowboys game.
Well, and potentially Eagles Niners. Obviously, that's one permutation of NFC Championship game possibilities at this point. You mentioned the SB Nation NFL show. Ed and I had a conversation with Pete Sweeney on the Monday version of that show. So Ed and I and Pete kind of recapped the Giants-Vikings victory. We're not going to do that here today. We're going to spin forward a little bit with Ed and BLG, kind of go Giants-Eagles back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But before we do that, Brandon, these are unique times, so we're not going in divisional order. We have to talk Cowboys-Buccaneers since that's the most recent thing. The Eagles obviously had the week off. 31-14, the final score for the Cowboys. Again, road playoff win, first time, Navy jerseys, jinx, grass, whatever. Tom Brady, they finally beat him, blah, blah, blah. I think even you would have to admit it was an impressive effort by the Cowboys.
Yeah, no bones about it. Cowboys played well. There isn't really anything you can really pick apart other than the kicking situation, which is certainly something to monitor, I guess, moving forward. It's like a big deal. But other than that, when your kicker is your biggest problem, it's not the worst place to be. So yeah, I thought it was all around impressive performance. There were some injuries as well. I kind of want to get your take on those, not take, but your little status update, because I didn't see what all kind of shook out from that. But yeah, all around impressive win. I will say, RJ, what do I always say? What's my line that I always use on this podcast? What's my famous line?
MCBT.
That's right, baby. More than one thing can be
true.
Oh
my gosh.
Shout out to Holden. Holden got me a shirt.
What the hell, Holden? Holden and I are friends. I can't. Wow, I'm hurt.
I have an extra one in this color too. And
I don't want that
BGN logo. Well, I think you want that one. What's your favorite color?
Probably blue. I mean,
as
a child, it was green.
What's your real favorite color? It's green.
Well, like,
anyway, wait,
hold on. I like the color green, but I have more like navy things than anything else.
So more than one thing can be true in a serious way. Impressive win by the Cowboys. At the same time, man, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the Cowboys. I'm just saying objectively, this Buccaneers team stinks, man. They suck. They are a bad team. Cowboys beat them, so congrats to them for doing it. But that Bucs team is also just bad.
I agree. However, would you say this was the least close game of the Super Wildcard weekend? Like, I know that Niners Seahawks got away from, or the game got away from itself, but it was kind of close, right? Certainly at halftime, the Seahawks even led, right? This was the least contested game of Super Wildcard weekend. And so I'm not going to be like, you can't say this or whatever to that Tom. Like, look, on some level, it is beating Tom Brady. By the way, Tom Brady has now lost to every NFC East team in the playoffs except for the Washington franchise. Granted, he lost to the Eagles and Giants in Super Bowls. But so, you can add the Cowboys to that list in a much more shy way. But so they won with authority. Like they are this much of a better team than the Bucs. And so I think it's not like they eked this out. It's not like it was ever close. It's not like it was ever in doubt. The only part of it that was kind of flirty with danger, to your point, was early on when the extra points were being missed. To kind of tackle that subject now, we're recording this Tuesday at 11:16 a.m. Central Time right now. Jerry Jones said the Cowboys would evaluate the situation in his appearance on The Fan 105.3 on Tuesday morning. I'm kind of torn. I think like 95% of me says you ride this out with Brett Maher. There is a natural 5%, insecure version that's like, I don't know. He has been wonderful for them. And for any Eagles fan that is unaware, he had a really awful experience with the Cowboys in 2019. Just a horrendous end to his tenure with the team. Bounced around a little bit, had a cup of coffee with the Saints last year, and the Cowboys brought him back after a disastrous kicking experiment in training camp. And I ate a lot of crow on Brett Maher, and I was really happy about that. And so it really, I'm so interested to see what the viewership for this game is, because I bet it is just a stupid number. I feel really badly for him that he had been so good, and he was not just bad, but like meltdown bad in such a massive moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to watch. Certainly, like, that's going to be a huge factor, in like against the 49ers, against the Eagles, if it gets to that point, and if they get to the Super Bowl somehow, like that's probably going to be, that could be the difference in a game, and that alone. And I remember going into the season, there was some, I think some consternation, right?
Sure.
Is that fair to say about what the Cowboys were doing at kicker? And yeah, to your point, he had a great year, but it's a really bad time. And it's four, man. That's so many to blow.
I was fine with them giving him the fourth opportunity. That one came in the second half. And I was, because like, okay, it's new half, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's some sort of reset involved there. But that's when it was like, okay, this is really,
let's go for two at that point. Yeah.
But I mean, at this point, it's like, oh man. And like people want to, and it's fair to say like, maybe it was the grass. Well, you know what San Francisco is? It's a grass field. If they have to go to Philly, you know what Philly is? Yeah. It's a grass field. So like that factor isn't going away. Mm-hmm. I'm I'm inclined to trust Brett Maher myself. I definitely trust the Cowboys to evaluate the situation. So I have a take. It's not like what is it? An olive branch? Is that the peace offering symbol? I'm not offering anything like that. I'm not saying like admit you're scared of Dak Prescott, but I think we're at a place where we can say we're afraid of every single one of these teams. I think we can just be honest about this. And like Cowboys fans are afraid of the Niners, the Eagles, the Giants on some level. I think Eagles fans have to, have watched Monday night, and Giants fans as well, and say, yeah, Dak Prescott was like cooking all sorts of stuff. Mike McCarthy was ready to go. Kellen Moore. Like if you're not like, again, in an intellectual way, afraid of this team, I don't think you're being fair.
I want to give Mike McCarthy a lot of credit for going for it, on that fourth down. I mean, it was a no-brainer to me in that situation, the fourth and goal, just because especially offense looks so hard for the Bucks, and give the Cowboys credit, for playing them tight. But like you could just see like that offense, it just any time they were driving, it was like pulling teeth. It was like barely that one first down pass that Brady had in the red zone, I think before that pick there, where he like flips that pass to
and Micah almost got it. Yeah.
It's just like this is like so ugly. This is like being held together like duct tape and glue. Like this is not good. And yeah, so I thought McCarthy had a good game. I thought Dak, this is the Dak that I think you can brag about. Like not the one who's turning the ball over. I know not all those are his fault, but he took care of the ball. He played a super efficient game. If you go by EPA or just EPA
in general, EPA per play was insane. I mean,
it's
it was
like one of the all-time playoff performances. So yeah, I mean, I can't really poke holes at anything about this performance. It was a great win.
It was, everybody. I'm curious if you agree. This isn't important, but do you agree that the presentation of this game all day long felt like a Super Bowl? Like the amount of attention and like all of, I'm not saying it was a Super Bowl, but like it felt like, and obviously it was a Cowboys game. So like I have a different level of attention and focus.
Like a year perspective thing.
I think it felt that way because like every ESPN show was like kind of based out of the game, right? Like, and you see that like they have their sets at the Super Bowl, whatever the case may be. So it had like a similar energy. I wouldn't know the Cowboys have made the Super Bowl, whatever. But so it felt that way. And there were so many people saying like Dak has to deliver, Dak has to perform, Dak has to do this, has to do this. The fact that he answered that call is again that's the dude that, like, at least I'm talking for myself here, I have always said is there. Like, and it's impractical to expect him to be, or anyone to be, that person every single week in the NFL. But the fact that he played like that when everything was on the line, and again, I recognize this is a shell of who Tom Brady has been, but against the greatest player of all time is a really impressive thing.
It is. And, you pointed out all the things they kind of conquered in terms of the blue jerseys and the grass field and Brady and everything. So to be able to navigate through that is great. I mean, you'll take it. I guess my question for you is, considering the quality of this Bucks team, not good. As I said, finished the season with a negative 62-point differential. Now, obviously, they played another game and these teams didn't. But can you guess the 6 teams that finished with a lower point differential this season?
In the NFL?
Yes, in the entire NFL.
Bears, Texans. Do I have 2?
Yep. I'll tell you when you're wrong. So
the
you just
Rams.
Keep going. Who's your least favorite team?
That's 3. Oh, the Colts.
Yep, that's 4.
The
fraud quarterback, NFC West.
The Cardinals?
Yep.
Interesting. I was going to guess them.
And your favorite team from last year, or least favorite team from last year, / our guy, Russ.
Oh, I was going to guess Broncos. The Broncos. Wow.
Yeah. So those are the teams that were worse. So this team,
point differential didn't tell you, because if you win one game, point differential, you win that game.
So my question for you then, I brought that up, is because obviously any kind of season that doesn't end in a Super Bowl win is going to be disappointing. But let's look at the scenario. Entertain me for a second, if you will. If the Cowboys lose to, admittedly, a very good 49ers team, so it's not like there's like it's not like extremely disgraceful. But if they lose, what is this season to you? Is it like, hey, we got a playoff win against the Bucks? Do we feel good about that as Cowboys fans? Is the question.
I have to say, and I know Ed's going to be joining us shortly, so trying to keep things sort of tight and contextualized, and we will talk a lot about this Cowboys-Niners game in the second episode of the week, just so we're all clear. Last year, I had a little bit of the kind of classic Cowboys fan energy, right? This is the, and I know I like to have fun on Twitter and stuff, but this is the year, it's all lining up. This has not been the year. This has been so left-footed, and that's where it's been impressive, right? And you mentioned the things that they kind of dispelled, the navy jerseys and the grass field, whatever. They're not supposed to win games without, Tony Romo goes down, they're done. Dak Prescott goes down, they're done. They went 4-1 without him. That in and of itself is kind of emblematic of how again, I'm not saying that makes them the greatest team of all time, but how different they are. So a year ago, it was like, oh, of course, to get there, they have to vanquish the big bad 49ers. Like, that's the story. Like, we've been chasing the story for 30 years now for the Cowboys. What is the most? Of course, they have to go through Aaron Rodgers. Of course, the story. Like, at this point, the story is like really insignificant. The story is really meaningless. Like, it's cool they beat Tom Brady, but so to me, it's like, if they lose, then what is the story? Do they lose because Brett Maher missed an extra point and that was the difference? Do they get blown out? I will say that the fact that they've gotten to this point is impressive. That doesn't mean
I agree
it's successful. That doesn't mean you should hang a banner or any sort of silly joke. But I mean, everybody counted them out, myself included. Everybody counted Mike McCarthy out. McCarthy had to go on Rich Eisen's show a week into the offseason to defend his own honor. I mean, and Sean Payton's out here planting all his stuff and whispering to all his sparrows in the media, and Mike McCarthy's just fighting him off. I mean, like, and I find that to be really impressive. From Mike McCarthy. Again, they lost Dak Prescott. They beat Tom Brady. I recognize a below 500 Tom Brady. Blah, 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 blah. I'm very interested to see. I don't think I will have a strong overreaction if they lose. It will be disappointing. It will be devastating in the way that a season ending obviously is. But this is the team. This is the team that broke them, that exposed them for being frauds, for being soft. And they forged themselves. They forged themselves into this machine. That doesn't mean they're the best team in the NFL, but they remade themselves and they got back here. And that quality is something that had been absent from this franchise for a very, very long time.
Yeah, there's absolutely something to be said for that. I just think I didn't even think of the specific matchup for when I was asking that question, but because you add that, and it's like, if you just get back to the same place where you lose to them again, and look, we're looking, I'm not just saying, like, assuming they're going to lose case. If the scenario where they win is obvious, it's like, wow, they beat the boogeyman. That was like the monkey that was on their back. Like, they got to the championship game and they did it by beating the team that eliminated them from last year. You can be like, hey, even if we lose in the championship game, that sucks. That's terrible. But hey, it feels like we're still pointing in the right direction. We're making progress, as opposed to if you don't beat the 49ers and it's like, is this just our ceiling? Is this like what we're destined to do? Like maybe win one playoff game and that be it? So that's kind of what I was wondering about.
I said this, and we'll talk about this a lot, obviously, and a lot of people will talk about it a lot, but I said it on our post-game show, and this, like, the Niners get made into the Brock Purdy story, right? Like, that's all, oh, they have Mr. Irrelevant, like, but that's all the story becomes about them. But like to live in that story for a moment, and I saw somebody tweet this, I don't know who it was, about the Eagles on Monday night or Monday afternoon. But if you had told me or any Cowboys fan and said, like, on the day of the draft or the day of day 3 of the draft, like, hey, to get where you haven't been, to get to the NFC Championship game, you have to beat Mr. Irrelevant in the draft, you would have taken that, right? Like, again, understanding that, like, football is crazy and football is weird, but, like, you would have signed up for that. You don't have to beat Aaron Rodgers. You already beat Tom Brady. Right now, you don't have to beat Jalen Hurts and the mighty Eagles. Right now, to get to the place you haven't been, you have to beat the last pick in the draft. Granted, he has an army behind him in Kyle Shanahan and Nick Bosa and Debo and Ayuk and everybody.
Well, think about that from the Eagles' perspective too. Like, so you get a first, like, let's say back in August or whatever, I tell you they get a first round bye, then they have to beat Daniel Jones in Philly, and then they have to beat Brock Purdy potentially in Philly. It's like, yeah, you sign up for that if that's the case.
You do, but those things, like, sound so much like, and that was my point. Like, they sound so much simpler than they really are. Like, beating Daniel Jones now is not like the easy thing that it would have sounded like a long, long, long time ago. Like, now it's kind of a terrifying thing. Like, whoa, like, Daniel Jones, watch out. And Ed should be joining us in a little bit here. Actually, maybe about, I don't know, 8 more minutes. With regards,
I will say, by the way, I just want to take a moment. Let's just give me a big round of applause for a second, because I went 6-0 in my straight up picks. I went 4-2 against the spread, including my lock of the week, which was the Cowboys. So that's the thing. Like, this game isn't like, wow. So, you did a good job on the SB Nation NFL show, getting Pete and Rachel on the record. Like, hey, what's your prediction for this game? I want to know your take beforehand. So then you can't, like, go after the fact and be like, whoa, it was only the Bucks. I can do that, and a little bit more so, just by comparison, at least, because, like, I expected them to win. I never thought they were going to lose. I was the only one on BGN, actually, from our BGN staff picks, who picked the Cowboys to win this game. Everyone else picked the Bucks. So I guess I'm, like, less surprised than others.
And that's where, like, I do, like, that's comes back to the like olive branch, peace offering, whatever. Like at this point, like we've had our fun, right? Like Eagles fans took their lap, back in October. Cowboys fans took their lap on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But like we've all had our fun. We've expended our energy. Like we can all acknowledge that these are 4 very good teams, that these 2 teams, at least that you and I cover specifically, are very, very good. They might be the 2 best teams in the conference. They might not be, again, contingent upon what happens this week with the 49ers. They certainly have a claim to the throne, even as the top team in the conference. And so we'll see about that. But like at this point, I'm just kind of excited and I'm nervous and I'm anxious and I'm terrified. Like I'm all of those things in one. And I haven't felt that way as a Cowboys fan. Like normally it's been this sense of overconfidence, but there's none of that happening right now.
What's going on with the injury situation? Because we didn't get to that. What are the injuries coming out of this game?
The big one was Jaron Curse, but he spoke after the game, said he was fine, he'd be playing. Other than that, there were like these moments where like Dorrance Armstrong got a little bit nicked up, and everything kind of worked itself out. There doesn't seem to be anything, any long. Micah was fine, had the scary moment at the end of the first half. We'll see about Jason Peters. That's something that I think should be mentioned. So the Cowboys jumbo package involves Connor McGovern at fullback. They deployed that a lot last year when they had more flexibility along the line as a whole. But they haven't really had the ability to do that this year just because somebody has always been hurt. So last night to start the game, the Cowboys trotted out from left to right, Jason Peters, Tyler Smith at left guard, Tyler Biadasz made his return at center, Zach Martin, obviously, and Tyron Smith at right tackle. I thought this was the best game that Tyron has played at right tackle. He got a stock up from me in my stock report for that reason. But Jason Peters got nicked up. Doesn't seem to be super serious right now. Again, it's still super early, so we'll see. But this sounds strange, but the Cowboys are comfortable with having to live in a world where Peters can't play for them because they just they slide Tyler Smith out and Connor McGovern play. I know you're very familiar with that.
Well, you have to. That's what you're signing up for when Jason Peters at age 41 or whatever.
There were a lot of Cowboys fans though who, when they brought this line out, they were like, "Well, why are you playing Tyron at right tackle? Right? If you're going to play Tyler Smith at left guard, you might as well play Tyron at left tackle." And I think the reason for that is the reality that unfolded. Right? Like if and when Peters gets hurt. I mean, you now have to have a plan at left tackle, and you have that in Tyler Smith, versus if you're playing Tyron Smith at left tackle and Peters is on the right side. If and when Peters gets hurt, you don't have as like the movement required is much more significant. You're trying to minimize the change that's happening along the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
What a week that we are in store for. So to set the stage, Giants Eagles is Saturday night, and that is on.
Wait, how did the Giants get to this spot again? What happened on Sunday?
Look, in your heart of hearts that Kirk Cousins played fairly well. The Vikings defense is just, man, and I will say,
in the final 2 drives of the game,
I feel so badly for Vikings fans because people like you have been calling them frauds all season long, and when you lose in the first round of the playoffs, like what, like that, and that's kind of what happened to the Cowboys last year, right? Like when people don't believe, and then in your first chance to prove yourself, you blow it. Like you confirm priors, like, and that's maybe not fair, but like that's
fair. It's objective data. Objective data suggested they were not as good as the
fair, but it's absent of other data. Like it's picking the data you want and you like, and there's no refute because it's like you lost.
I mean, I think DVOA and point differential and
I'm not saying that they're like the best team ever, but like they played a good game on Sunday and they lost, and that's really unfortunate. So I feel badly for Vikings fans. So as Ed kind of makes his way here, he should be here very shortly. I said this, and I told Ed, I'm afraid of Brian Dabel. Like the worst thing that ever happened to us was the Giants firing Joe Judge. Like, holy crap, this dude's the real deal, man.
Yeah, when they hired him, did they hire Shane first or was it him?
I think it was Shane first, I believe.
I mean, that would make sense, the Buffalo connection. I don't remember exactly, but either way, I was like, man. And I think we said that here in the mixtape. I'm like, I don't know. It would be way too premature at that point to be like, the Giants definitely nailed this because of how bad they've been. But it was like, you could see how this would work out, right? And I think too many people poo-pooed like the fact that, Josh Allen got way better when he was there. I don't think Dabel deserves all the credit for that, to be clear. You got to give Josh Allen a lot of credit and other factors there in Buffalo. But hey, let's look at Josh Allen this year without Brian Dabel. Not looking like quite as good, right? Like that's not irrelevant.
So a few things on the staff situation, and Ed should be here momentarily, like I said. I feel like the moment that we were like, okay, this is for real, it wasn't like we believed in Dabel, but it was the Wink Martindale hire. That's when we were like, oh crap,
the whole staff.
Yeah, it was like
Kafka too was a big deal.
Exactly. It was like
coaching interviews now.
It was like, okay, they don't just have like a front man, you know what I mean? Like they have a crew, and that was the really like nerve-wracking thing. You're right. nobody, and predictably, nobody nationally talking about Josh Allen's 3 turnovers that almost lost the game. And I love Josh Allen. Like, that's what upsets me, that like I have to, do this. But like, to be fair, he had 3 turnovers against a really bad Dolphins team that was 31st in the NFL in takeaways this year. I mean, like that is a real thing that, that nobody, and the Bills led the NFL in turnovers. I mean, so like, and to your point, like Brian Dabel leaving and that happening all of a sudden is an interesting thing. And then I mentioned this on the NFL show. If you define a clean game as no turnovers for a quarterback, no interceptions, no fumbles, Daniel Jones had 7 of them in his first 3 years in the NFL, and he has 9 of them now, just this season. Like, that is Brian Dabel.
It's wild. It's like to go, because he was just a fumbling machine. At one point, he was almost like fumbling, or I forget what it was. I think there was a point where I combined his fumbles, interceptions, and it was almost like Wentz-like. It was just like one, at least one per game. Like, you could count on him to turn it over, and the progress he's made there. Some of that, as we kind of talked about offline, I wonder if there's like some regression back to the mean coming next season. I don't know. I'm not ready to say it's all fluky. I do kind of wonder some of that, but I think you do have to give Dabel credit for lowering those turnovers a lot.
Well, we have landed the transition perfectly, because joining us now, not live, but live as we're recording this, on the NFC East Mixtape for the 2nd week in a row, the main man, the head honcho, the king of the emperor over at SB Nation's Big Blue View. It is Ed Valentine. Ed, what did you have for breakfast today?
What did I have for breakfast today? I had waffles for breakfast today.
You go syrup or dry? Like, what's your?
You can't do dry, guys. You just can't do dry.
I agree. Yeah,
no chance.
We dry waffle over there, RJ.
We were wondering, Ed. Joe Shane was hired before Brian Dabel, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Wow. So right now I'm kind of like the center of the ring. I got BLG on one corner. I got Ed on the other. The winner gets a free stack of waffles. New York Giants visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. The line is 7.5 still at the moment. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
For DraftKings, yes.
So first question before we get to that, Ed, what does it feel like to have the NFC Beast back alive and thriving? 3 of the 4 teams left in the divisional round.
This is cool. This is the way it should be, guys. This is the way it's supposed to be. The NFC Beast. There's 3 of us here. There's one team missing, but I don't even remember who they are. I'm not sure they know who they are anymore. But yeah, this is kind of fun. I'm enjoying this.
Ed, what is the biggest difference, I guess, from the last time the Eagles and Giants played? Let's say like a meaningful or normal game, like the Week 18 game. It's kind of weird to compare, given the circumstances in that one. What do you think is the biggest difference between the Giants of Week 14, which the Eagles blew out, and this Giants team now?
Well, I think there are 2 differences, Brandon. I think that defensively, I think that what you're going to see is a healthier Giants team. I think that what you're going to see, and look, the Eagles have a really good offense. They're going to score points. The Giants don't have a defense that resembles the 1985 Bears. Okay. They have a good defense, but they will have Leonard Williams, Xavier McKinney, and Adoree Jackson in this game. And I would argue that those are 3 of their 5 best defensive players. So I think that's a big help for the Giants. And I think that the other difference offensively, I'm not going to say that it's Daniel Jones, but what I look at with the Giants is the evolution of this offense. The very beginning of the season, they were a run first, throw it when they had to, throw it on their terms only, a lot of bootleg, the simplest possible throws they could give Daniel Jones. And they're different now. They're a much more balanced offense. They're entirely willing to allow Daniel Jones to go back and throw the ball on first down. I see them as not an offensive juggernaut, but a more balanced offense that presents a defense with more things to think about.
Ed, you, myself, and Pete Sweeney talked about the Giants win over the Vikings on the NFL show this week. People can go listen to that if they'd like. We're obviously spinning forward here. I mean, is this is this the matchup? Do you feel confident in this matchup, I guess? Because as a Cowboys fan, over the weekend, it was like, okay, well, if X, Y, and Z happens, Dallas is going here, Dallas is going there. We ran a poll at bloggingtheboys.com after Saturday and said, okay, would you rather face the Philadelphia Eagles or the San Francisco 49ers? And like 90% of people said the Eagles. So a lot of people are terrified of the Niners right now. Is this the matchup you would like? I mean, do you feel confident here? I mean, like what's the level of confidence here?
Well, confident is probably not a good word. Okay. The Eagles are the number 1 seed. They're at home. They're the better team. Everyone will acknowledge that. All right. But I love this. I love this matchup. I love being the New York Giants right now because the Giants are going to Philly. Nobody expects them to win. The Giants have nothing to lose. And how much fun, how delicious would this be for the New York Giants to go to not only beat the Eagles, but to walk into Philly and beat the Eagles. So I love everything about this.
RJ, you talked about how all those streaks were kind of broken with Mike McCarthy, whatever, the blue jerseys, the grass, all these, like the Giants don't beat the Eagles. Like that's just like for a long time now. And Ed knows that well. It's crazy because there was actually a point where you look at the all-time series and the Giants had a huge lead and the Eagles actually took it back. And the Eagles are the Giants rather are the only team that the Eagles actually have a lead over now in the all-time series in the NFC East because of that domination from years. And I think it's been like since 2007 since the Giants have actually swept the Eagles, and the Eagles have done that to them, I think 8 times or something in that span. So it's kind of crazy,
including this season, just to your point.
Sure, which last game kind of weird, but whatever, still it counts. So that would be that much bigger of a deal if the Giants could come into Philly and actually get this monkey off their back for a team that usually dominates them so well. I guess Ed, you said confident maybe isn't the word you would use. What concerns you about this Eagles team specifically?
Well, obviously it's a really good defense. It's an offense that when it's whole, presents a ton of issues. Can you guys just, by the way, just do me one favor? Inactivate Boston Scott, please. All right. Boston Scott, who's built his career against the Giants. Yeah, it is. I think, what is it? Like 10 or 11 of his 17 or 18 touchdowns for his career against the Giants.
He's awesome against them.
But look, there's no one single thing that concerns me about the Eagles. The fact of the matter is, they're a deeper roster. They're a better football team than the New York Giants are right now. So the Giants are the underdog. They're David against Goliath in this matchup. And it is what it is. And to be honest with you, the fact that it's 2 NFC East rivals, I mean, that's why I love it. I mean, the Giants, I've said before that the Giants are playing with house money. And in this matchup, I think they are. They have nothing to lose here. If they get blown out, people are going to go, oh, well, the Eagles did that to them a few weeks ago. So, that's what we expected. So if the Giants make the Eagles sweat, that's going to be a lot of fun. And if they somehow manage to win the game, then that's out of this world crazy. But yeah, so I don't know. I think the Eagles, there's a lot of things to worry about when you're the Giants looking at the Eagles.
I'm so fascinated by this. I don't mean this in like a trolly way, but I do think this is the worst matchup for the Eagles in that like this is like it's the most to lose, so to speak. Like it is because it is David versus Goliath to Ed's point, right? And Ed, I say this with look, Ed came in guns blazing on the NFL show, just trying to dunk all over the Cowboys who went in to win. I'm going to be super respectful of the Giants here. They've had a great season, but we all can agree, right? Like they have some limitations and they've surpassed all of them, and good for them. But like a Cowboys-Eagles game would feel not Goliath-y, but, it would feel like a matchup of 2 teams that are somewhat equal to one another. It doesn't feel that way like on paper here. The line doesn't reflect that. Again, as mentioned, 7.5 points here. So like this is a game where the Eagles like kind of have to, they have way more to lose. And like, that's the situation I kind of trust Brian Dabel the most in, Ed, is having nothing to lose. Like, and we've seen that, like, this man is, when was the last time the Giants were favored against the Colts? Right. Like
probably.
I am afraid of Brian Dabel, and I'm definitely, they are the sleeping Giants. And I don't like that. To be the team, going up against them, especially for it to be not only your first playoff game, but Ed, I think an underrated part is this is the first game of true significance for the Eagles since the Bears game, Brandon. And even that, they had clinched a playoff berth. I mean, you're talking about, it has been a long time since there has been no safety net underneath this Eagles team, Ed.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, I love this because there's just nothing to lose from the Giants' perspective. And RJ, I did kind of come after you the other day. But I'm being nicer today. I'm keeping the gloves on.
You don't have to be, Ed. You don't have to be.
No, I'm RJ. His team won last night. Dak Prescott played well. We got to give him that. They need a new kicker. Maybe somebody on your staff or mine can go try out there, Brandon. I don't know, but they need some help maybe they should just go for 2 points. I don't know.
Probably.
But listen, Brian Dabel came in this season, and the biggest thing that Brian Dabel did this year, I think, was show a belief in his players, show that they're going to play to win. I was talking to Mark Schofield earlier today on my show about this, and week 1 against the Tennessee Titans, the Giants went for 2 points, down 20-19 with a minute and a half to go. They went for 2 points. And I remember Brian Dabel being asked about the reaction on the sideline even before they ran the play. And he said the reaction all across the sideline was, F yeah, let's play to win this game. Let's just play. And that's how he's played all year. And I think that has been huge for the Giants, just that belief in players from the coaching staff, and that, we're going to play to win at all times kind of attitude.
All right, Ed, I know you love predictions, so I have to ask. What is your prediction for this game? Again, the Eagles listed as 7.5-point favorites. I want to get your take on if they cover or not, or win outright, whatever. I want to hear it. What do you got?
Oh, I got to take the points, but I can't pick the Giants to win the game. I just can't do it. I want to, but right now, as I sit here on Tuesday, I haven't talked myself into that one yet. I want to. Maybe by the time I make my pick at Big Blue View later in the week, I will have talked myself into that, but I haven't quite talked myself into it yet. I'm still curious how healthy Jalen Hurts is, to be honest with you. Sure. I am curious about that because that changes the Eagles playbook so much. It changes the dynamics of their offense. I mean, he's dangerous as a scrambler, he's dangerous in the pocket, but if they can't rely on him in the designed run area and threaten that way, that just changes a lot of things. And I may change my mind if we think that Hurts is going to be limited, but right now I'm playing it safe and just taking the points. Like I said, I've got to work on my confidence, on my attitude, on my ego a little bit, and go out there on the limb and take the Giants to win this one, but I can't quite do it yet.
You need to be the guy that showed up to Monday Football Monday.
It's only, that's true. I realize that maybe, I should have brought that today, but I left my guns in the closet today. So what can I tell you?
My quick take on Ed's take there is I think it comes down to the talent thing. And I think the Eagles, like Ed used the term better team. I think that's a little bit more subjective in terms of it's a little bit more nebulous of a concept. So I think you can make an argument, but the talent level, I think, is inarguable. The Eagles are inarguably the more talented team. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win. Doesn't mean the talented teams always win. But I just think when you look at it, from a talent perspective, certainly that's why they're favored by that much. And also why you think that even if this ends up being a kind of a close game, which the Giants deserve a lot of credit for being in a lot of close games, they kind of that's what they do under Brian Dabel. They just kind of hang around. I just feel like if you're looking at it from the Eagles' perspective, you have confidence that even if it is close, you have someone who's just going to make a play. Someone from this talented roster is going to make a play at some point, and I think that's kind of what you kind of come down to at the end of the day.
I think if the Giants win this game, it's a matter of like, we talk talent and whatever, like, in making plays. It's just like death by 1,000 paper cuts of Daniel Jones, right? Like if you're an Eagle, but seriously, like, we've all lost games like that, right? Like, where if you're an Eagles fan, you're like, how is he doing it? How do you pick up this first down on 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, whatever, this scramble?
We talked about this going into the Eagles-Giants game in Week 14. Like, I was talking with Ed, like, the formula for victory is the Commanders' approach. Like, yeah, shorten the game, and it's kind of what the Ravens just tried to do to the Bengals the other night. Like, shorten the game and go on these long drives, and they did that. The Giants did that well. I thought they converted a lot of third downs. I don't know how sustainable that is, the amount of third downs they were converting against the Vikings. But yeah, certainly they can do it.
That's what the Giants are. They have to be efficient on offense. They're not going to, Saquon Barkley had the 28-yard touchdown run, but it has been forever since Barkley had one of those 40, 50, 60-yard runs that he's known for. The Giants have to be efficient. They have to be mistake-free. The path for the Giants is always narrow. It's always narrow because, as Brandon said, they're the lesser of the two teams in terms of talent when it comes to Saturday night. They're the lesser of the two, and mistakes are going to kill them.
This is revenge for 2008, Ed, when the Giants were the number 1 seed. And
it could be.
They lost. And actually, if that happened, if the Giants won this game, all 3 of the teams that we cover in the last 15 years would have been one and done as the top seed in the conference, although the Cowboys have done it twice in the last 16 years. In 2007, it was Dallas. They went one and done. As Brandon, you're confused. In 2007, Dallas went one and done in the playoffs, lost to the Giants. In 2008, the Giants, as the 1 seed the next year, went one and done against the Eagles. In 2016, Dallas went one and done, although that wasn't a division rival. And then this would be the Eagles going one and done if they
What
lost.
About 2017?
I know, but I'm saying this would obviously there have been times where it has been successful. I'm saying this would be specifically a one and done time. But yeah, the Eagles won the Super Bowl as the 1 seed in 2017. I'm not saying it happens every time a team is
gotcha.
But Ed, thank you so much for joining us. For all of the listeners, Ed and BLG will have a lot more stuff available at Big Blue View and Bleeding Green Nation throughout the week. Ed, walk a little bit taller. The Giants are very good.
I'm trying, but I just can't. I'm getting old, RJ. I can't bring that fire every day.
Well, you know what, Ed? Tomorrow, make it pancakes instead of waffles. Ed Valentine, thank you for joining us, everybody. Hope you have a great week. Wow, Brandon, are you nervous?
You didn't give Ed a chance to plug anything, but go to Big Blue View and the Big Blue podcast
kind of
feed.
I said Big Blue View 1,000 times.
I mean, you
and he's going to be.
Maybe you wanted to plug something they need coming up.
There's going to be a lot of there's going to be the 5 questions, the 3 reasons to lose, etc. Yeah. There's going to be all the crossover stuff this week. Anyway.
A lot of good stuff.
Do you agree?
Your Nation and Big Blue View.
Do you agree with my take that maybe it's not the scariest, but it is a scary? And let me be very clear. Anything is scary, right? Like there's none of the 8 teams feel safe right now. I was on Monday Football Monday. Pete was like, I'm really terrified of the Jaguars, like for the Chiefs, right? So like nothing is easy, nothing is safe, nothing feels good. But there is this like we are waiting for the Eagles not to prove themselves. They proved themselves. Like that is a silly idea to think that they have to do that. But it is reached the point where it's like, okay, if you don't get it done, then it all means nothing, right? Like, and again, as somebody who has seen 2 teams go one and done, again, the Eagles obviously won the Super Bowl as the 1 seed, but like if the Eagles go one and done at the hands of the little brother who they've dominated over and over and over again, like it will be a long offseason in Philadelphia.
Oh, it'll be a failure of a season. And the Eagles are in a spot here where there is a lot of pressure on them. And it's a good point by Ed, and it's a fair one in terms of how you can relish in being the underdog, because the Eagles did that once upon a time, and it worked out well for them. The Eagles need to win the Super Bowl this year, basically, or at least, I mean, that sounds obvious. Well, hold on. I mean, look at what they have going on, though. There's so many free agents this offseason. But they potentially might lose both coordinators. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to lose Gannon. I think they're going to hold on to Steichen, but we'll see.
And Kelsey's a little bit older too, like kind of the end of the road.
Gone. Right. Fletcher Cox. A lot of staples of the organization could be gone, and maybe some for better in some cases. But
and then and then like a real thing, likely regression. Like I've come around on AJ Brown, but like, is he the same, God mode dude next year? Maybe, but like,
he'll be better in theory. He's only like 24. 25.
Well, and to be fair, I thought it was impossible that the Cowboys could repeat as takeaway leaders in the NFL, but they did that. I mean, so anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of looking at potentially a Chiefs situation a little bit where you're kind of retooling a bit. You're still competing, but you're kind of retooling the roster, and there's some changes, and there could be some growing pains within that. So it's not like, it's hard to say any kind of season is defined by a Super Bowl because one team wins the Super Bowl. But certainly, if you get knocked out in your first playoff game, especially because you'll just have so many advantages going into this one. I mean, the Giants are playing on a short week; they're going from Sunday to Saturday, and the Eagles, have had the bye. I just feel like there's and if the Eagles get by this team, if they happen to do that, then they're going to have a rest advantage against their next opponent too in the championship game, because that team will be going from Sunday to Sunday as opposed to the Eagles going Saturday to Sunday.
Interesting how now it's a rest advantage, but when I talked about the Cowboys being at a disadvantage, you didn't want to hear it.
So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I genuinely don't feel worried. That's not trying to be disrespectful to the Giants. It's not that I don't think they have a chance to win. I think it comes down to the talent, and I feel good about the matchup. I just think the Giants can play their A+ game, and it just might not be good enough, because I just think at the end of the day, they lack some key pieces. And also, look, I'm going to bring up the Vikings thing again. I was very consistent that I did not think the Vikings were the most impressive team. The team ranked 28th in weighted DVOA was not the most impressive team. That's not to take away from the Giants win, but it's not like they beat like the most juggernaut team out there. It was a good win. It was absolutely a good win for the Giants, but I think there reaches a point where there's just a ceiling on this team, and I think this is kind of the ceiling.
I do think it's funny, by the way, that you lauded the Giants for being in so many one-possession close games, but it's this huge demerit that the Vikings, were in so many one-possession close games with a rookie head coach as well. But whatever, I'm not here to defend the Minnesota Vikings.
The expectations for the Vikings.
Why are the expectations
higher for the Giants? They were.
Anyway,
so tell me, what was the Vikings win total projected?
I really don't know.
And what was the Giants? Do you think the Vikings was higher than the Giants?
I think they were, but are we talking, was it 6.5 to 5.5? Or was it 10.5 to 5.5? That is significant information that I don't have right now. So you used the word, was it pressure? Like you said, you're not worried. Fine, call it pressure.
It's 9.5 games, by the way.
The Vikings over under?
Yes, versus the Giants.
They hit the over. Giants, I'm gonna guess, was 6.5. What was it?
Was 7.
Okay, so 2.5 games. Whatever.
That's significant.
Anyway, so I think this is and I'm not trying to be trolly, but it's the divisional round of the playoffs, right? It's intense. So looking at it, I do think this is the most pressure, worry, whatever you could assign to the Eagles. If you look at the other divisional round opponents, because if the Eagles lost a playoff game to the 49ers, it's hey, the Niners are a machine, blah, blah, blah. It sucks that we lost, but you can square that a lot more easily in your mind. We talked about that with the Cowboys a moment ago. If the Eagles lost to the Cowboys, I know it would be annoying to no end, but it would be well, damn, we don't want to admit this, but they have a lot of good pieces.
It wouldn't be an inexplicable loss.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be inexplicable. This is the most inexplicable that a loss would be. And so in that sense, it is the most pressure. It's a team that the Eagles have dominated. To your point, the Eagles have overtaken in the division rivalry standings. It is a wild card team. It's a team you have a rest advantage against. It's a team with a quarterback that, was super prone to turning the ball over, with a rookie head coach, right? You couldn't line up all of the variables to be more favorable on paper. So that's why I'm saying I do think the pressure is a stupid word, whatever you want to call it, is higher with the Giants than it would be for anyone else. But maybe that also lends to the idea that the Eagles are much more likely to win.
For my prediction of this game, which, I'm going to make 1,000 times just like Ed, I think the Eagles win. I think I'm going to say double digits, but it's not going to feel that way. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a close game to the end. The Eagles pull away very late and they seal the deal kind of thing. But I do think the Giants are going to hang around and be competitive. It's a lot. There's a lot of differences, which is why I wanted to ask Ed that question from, again, the last time they played in a really, truly meaningful game, the Week 18 matchup. That was a weird situation. The Giants were resting starters. The Eagles are clearly not going all out to win in that game. Jalen Hurts had 0 design runs. I would bet any amount of money that he's going to have more than 0 design runs in this game on Saturday night. Yeah.
So allow me to ask a few more questions, and they're what ifs because of the time that we're recording this. And again, not a trolley thing. I offered the olive branch, people. What if Jalen Hurts?
Imagine someone gave you an actual olive branch. Would you feel like peaceful with them? I would be like, what is this? I don't want this.
I wonder what the like origin is. And we've asked some weird questions in the past on the mixtape, and people have been like, actually, this is why this is this. Like, what is the origin of the like? What
am I gonna do with an olive branch?
That's what I'm saying. Like, was there a point in time where, like, to broker peace, somebody literally gave someone an olive branch, and the person on the receiving end was like, "Oh, hell yeah!" Like,
what should the modern olive branch be? Like, what should someone like? You can just give this thing to anyone, and it automatically creates peace between people.
A Chick-fil-A gift card.
Great gift. I was thinking a gift card could be. But I don't know. Chick-fil-A controversial in some aspects, and also not open on Sundays, which is annoying if you're going to go to the Falcons Stadium.
Then a coffee gift card, and whatever Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever your flavor is.
My good friend Zach pointed out the difference between us is you're a Starbucks guy and I'm a Dunkin' guy. I'm a man of the people, and you're living in your ivory castle up there.
I'm a man of simplicity, and there are like Starbucks on every exit of the highway. Dunkins are just like a little bit more complicated to get to. So that's
RJ. What is the national animal of the United States of America?
Okay.
Who
is America's team?
What is it? What is it? What is it?
So my question to you.
Wait, what is the answer to that question?
You know the answer. So my question is, what is
America's team?
What is the panic level, or is it nothing because it doesn't feel significant anymore? What is the panic level if Jalen Hurts is a limited participant in actually Tuesday's practice today, right? Because there will be one today.
It'll be
on Saturday.
Not a real practice on Tuesday. It'll be a walkthrough, so it's not really the best barometer. You would like to
Wednesday,
see full. It's an estimated report, so it would still be a little bit concerning if he's limited. But again, it doesn't mean a ton because it's just a walkthrough. So yeah, Wednesday will kind of be the real revealing result from in that regard. Jalen Hurts, I don't know if you were able to catch this as you're preparing for the Cowboys Bucks game last week, but Jalen Hurts didn't really throw a lot. The Eagles held 2 practices during the bye week. On Thursday, kind of just was like throwing throwing motions with a towel, like simulated throwing. But then on Friday, he seemed to be full go. So that seemed like a positive step in the right direction. And also on Lane Johnson, who's going to be playing through this very painful injury. Eagles, it seemed to me like there was kind of a positive vibe from him. It sounded like the injury wasn't fully as bad as he expected. And to be clear, I'm not saying like it's a minor deal now. It's still a significant deal, but he seemed to be more optimistic that he might actually be able to play through this. But those are both very volatile and both very significant. If Lane goes out there and he thinks he can play, but he can only get, like 10 snaps into the game and has to come out, well, not very good. And also with Jalen, we'll see where he's at this week. But if that is something that kind of also maybe hampers him throughout the course of the game because he's going to be throwing more and more and using that shoulder, then that's tough. And I also think that kind of factors in how the Eagles might need to game plan for this from the sense of, I don't think you want this to be a game where Hurts has to throw 40 times. I think you want to rely on the run if you can and kind of limit some of those passing attempts.
Boston Scott, baby.
Boston Scott. Inexplicably, I don't know if there's, and it's a genuine question. I want to know if there's ever just been like a role player who has consistently owned another team as much as he has.
Santana Moss against the Cowboys, Deshaun Jackson against the Cowboys. Like, you know what I mean? There's a few.
But, those guys aren't. Deshaun's not a role player for sure.
Well, I guess that's true.
Also, Moss would be above that. I would say Moss.
Yeah, I just kind of went to like.
He's not a starter.
People use the phrase like Cowboy killer, Giant killer, whatever. Like again, like those are the players that came to mind.
Jordan Hicks ended Tony Romo's career.
Jordan Hicks also had the pick 6 off of Matt Castle.
He was like that's part of why I liked Hicks so much. It's like he always showed up.
There was a weird like negative energy associated with that. By the way, on the subject of this, did you see what Chris Godwin did entering the game Monday night?
No.
So Chris Godwin wore a Miami Heat 2006 NBA Finals jersey. In the lead up, like on his way into the stadium on Monday night. This is significant because the Miami Heat beat the Dallas Mavericks in the 2006 NBA Finals. And I'm not a Mavericks fan. I'm a Spurs fan. But it's like very common knowledge that like Mavericks fans despise Dwayne Wade. They felt like it was the free throws and fouls and everything were just like ridiculous that entire series. So like it was this insane like trolling petty move to specifically it was not just a Wade finals jersey. Obviously the Heat were in a lot of finals with him, but like a 2006 one specifically was a very conscious effort that kind of didn't work out for him. So
Spurs are like the only team that we can probably both kind of root for ish.
Do you know
I'm
that
not a full-on Spurs fan, but my dad used to like them randomly because he went to San Antonio for like a work trip, so he got like a Spurs hat, and it was like the cool one with the teal. Oh, it was a black hat, but it had like some of the teal, like I forget
the Fiesta colors.
Yeah, Fiesta colors, and I always loved Tim Duncan. He was like my favorite player. So yeah.
Do you know that Kirk Cousins is a Spurs fan? It's like
now I don't like them at
all. Okay. So we'll see. There's gonna be a really fun week. So we'll have an NFC East game on back-to-back days. I thought I had a question about.
We got to get the Commanders real quick. I had a couple Commanders thing.
Okay.
If you'll indulge me. I mean,
we haven't. Well, it seems Ron Rivera is safe. By the way, like we're past the point where like that's like a status watch. So he's gonna be back for 2023. We have yet to see any real change across the coaching landscape. No new coaches hired yet at the time of this recording. So what was your Commanders thing?
Well, they're interviewing Pat Shurmur for their offensive coordinator job, which instantly made me think this is the 2022 Panthers offensive coordinator search all over again, which, they were looking for a quote unquote rock star under Matt Rule, and they ended up with Ben McAdoo. And they were just like interviewing the most pathetic candidates consistently. So I'm kind of worried for the sake of the Commanders that this is kind of what's on that path, because why? I mean, I know Shurmur has the connection with Rivera. They're both, assistants in Philly. There's that connection, or the Andy Reid coaching tree, but come on, man. Like, really? That's your answer to get Pat Shurmur back into the game? So that would be really pathetic. Number one. Did you have anything on that?
I mean, I feel identically. So, I mean, I don't have anything to add.
And then number two, there's been a lot of ownership rumors, kind of like some Bezos has come up again in terms of what he didn't offer maybe for the team.
Oh, I did see this. Okay.
You can check out Hogs Haven has a better, collection of like all of that information. One thing that I thought was interesting is Philadelphia's 76ers owner, Josh Harris, who also owns like the Devils and I think Crystal Palace. I don't know if he still owns them or if he sold them. But he has been looking into NFL ownership before. I think like there was a potential mention of a Steelers in the past or something. But it sounds like he might be in the mix for the Commanders, which would be very weird that the same owner for three different kind of like tri-state area, like the Devils, which is, New Jersey, but basically right by New York because they play right by the Giants. And then a Philly team, and then a Commanders team or Washington team, which by the way, Josh Harris is actually from DC or that area. So could happen. Weird is all I have to say about that. It'd be strange.
It's like the Commanders have weird vibes in general, but like it has to be like a low thing to be like not only the only team in the division that didn't make the playoffs, but the only one who didn't reach the divisional round, right? Like the jokes write themselves. Like, it's a tough scene for a Commanders fan right now.
I mean, could all four make the divisional round? I guess, right? Or no?
You could. Well, let's think this out. If play it out this way, if they had been the 7 seed, yeah, because you would have had 5, 6, 7 seeds win their matchups, which almost happened, but didn't happen. But like in this case, if they had beaten the Niners instead of if they had been the Seahawks and beaten the Niners, it could have happened.
That'd be crazy. Just like guaranteed NFC East Super Bowl representative. That'd be crazy.
We do have a guaranteed NFC East title game representative, obviously, with the Eagles and Giants. And just for literal clarity, if
this
the Giants,
is so funny.
It's not funny. It's real. If the Giants,
I was listening to Monday Football Monday when you said this, and I said, "Give me a break."
It's true though. Like how can you say like
it's true? But like you're just like, what is the chance? What are the odds on this?
I mean, they're long. The Giants are 7.5 point underdogs, but like it's my job to like provide information about the Dallas Cowboys.
I will give you the answer to this question. So you explain it.
If we go in chronological order, if the Giants won on Saturday night, then the winner of Cowboys Niners would host the NFC Championship game. So the Niners have a chance to host the title game as well. Just as much, they're favored. But so my point is, if the Eagles lose, they won't host the NFC Championship game. But the Giants winning opens the door because they are a wild card team for Sunday's winner to host the NFC title game. We could technically get Cowboys Giants NFC title game at AT&T Stadium.
The odds of that happening per DraftKings Sportsbook, if you're going to do a parlay with Giants money line and Cowboys money line, would be plus 862. So you could bet $100 to win, for a payout of $962. So if you think that's likely,
well, what were the odds of the Chargers blowing a 27-point lead last Saturday?
I mean, against Doug, very likely, because Doug Peterson teams come back in games and they come back in seasons. He has consistently done that. So Doug, love Doug.
I'm gonna pick the Eagles to win too. I might take the points, and I want to see like how the line moves. But I'm leaning take the points, take the Eagles at this point.
It's
But
hard not to take the points when you saw what happened for the most of Wild Card Weekend. Like I
well,
know the Bucks got blown out, but
like let us be the first to say, like we're the first to coin NFC East and NFC East, that divisional weekend is the best weekend of the NFL. Like wild card games are fun, but this is generally a crazy weekend. Like the games are all generally very crazy. You normally don't get like blowouts and things like that. Maybe that does happen, but it historically is a really fun kind of back and forth thing. But I forgot what my point was. I'm gonna take the Eagles.
I disagree with that. But anyway,
what is the best NFL weekend then?
I love the championship weekend because I just think it's just.
Well, it's not a weekend though. It's one day. I mean, that's
whatever.
I'm kind of cheating here.
Okay, sure. I know. Yeah, if you're spreading, I get why people argue for it, but just personally, I love the stakes of a championship game. It just feels like so life or death. Just getting the chance to play in the Super Bowl sometimes almost feels better than the Super Bowl, especially because like it's just weird. The Super Bowl is kind of it's like a fake kind of game in some ways in terms of like it's a neutral site, and then there's
all the lead up, and it becomes like plastic in a lot of ways. Yeah,
and the teams aren't rivals a lot of the times. Like it's just it's AFC team versus NFC teams that really never meet. Like there's not a lot of tension there. So I think the championship games tend to be better than the Super Bowl. But that's just a me thing. You said you're going to take the Eagles to win, but not cover.
Well, again, I want to see what the line is. Like
we'll make picks again on the Thursday,
I'm just saying, like
episode.
I already like the 7.5 points, but like. If I can get more, I want to get more. You know what I'm saying? But
that would be a bad sign if it's trending in that way, though.
Well, that's why I want to see the practice reports and stuff. But that's my general like take, because I'm gonna take the Eagles and the points though. But so at this point, and obviously, I don't think enough teams who secure the 1 seed get credit for reaching the divisional round. Like people don't treat that like a playoff win. It's not a playoff win. Well, then Dak Prescott has an extra playoff win. Like, that's
I mean, not in terms of like the function of it.
That's my point. Like, people don't give enough credit to that. Like, so if the Eagles do lose, they'll be like, well, Jalen Hurts has never won a playoff game. It's like, well, dude, he got them to the divisional round of the playoffs. Like that is like, if you get this first round bye, now obviously there used to be 2 of them, but like you automatically put yourself a home game away from the title game, right? Like that is a big time thing if you do that. And so, but in a literal sense, it won't be a playoff win if the Eagles lose. And so Brian Dabel has a playoff win as the head coach of an NFC East team. Mike McCarthy now does. Nick Sirianni, the only one who doesn't. Just putting that out there. Okay, I have one question for you that I saw while we were recording this. And by the way, as we wrap, everybody, so we will have a second episode later this week with a more heavy focus on the Cowboys-Niners side of things, and obviously an update on Giants-Eagles and how that progresses throughout the week. But you ready for my question?
I am. Wait. Now I'm ready.
Okay. I saw this worded one way. I'm going to change it a little bit. For $1 million, all right, if you had to eat 5 pounds of some food in an hour, what food are you picking?
There's definitely like a right answer to this, and I'm not smart enough on the spot.
I think you're going to miss it. And when I tell you what I saw, you're going to be like, that's a good answer. But you probably will have like a reason why you wouldn't pick this anyway. But go ahead.
I can't think. 5 pounds is a lot. 5 pounds, I think, is like probably my limit of what I could like. If I had to go like I can eat a lot. Trust me. I've once eaten like 2 pizzas at a time.
You're 6'5". Like, it's a lot of fuel that
I've once eaten I think it was 2 16-inch hoagies at the hoagie sub shop that I used to work at. So I can eat a lot if I want to. I don't have to eat that much, but I can. I think 5 pounds would be like, it would be tough. It'd be a challenge. I think I could do it more than most people can, certainly. But what's the answer to the question?
I want to hear your answer before I tell you. Like,
I was like going to say cotton candy, but that's like a lot of cotton candy.
That was the answer I saw. Was cotton candy.
Yeah. That's like a lot of cotton candy though, because it's so light. I don't know. It's just
you might get like physically tired of like the eating like mechanism.
Your jaw, it does. That happens to you. Your jaw gets tired, it gets sore. I don't know. I feel like there has to be a better answer than that. Like a food that's maybe dense.
What about like watermelon?
I just wouldn't want to do that. I'm not the biggest watermelon guy.
For $1 million though?
I'm not excited about it. I mean, sure. I mean, if I have to, I would attempt it, or I could.
Well, that's what we're trying to come up with the best answer. I think like seedless watermelon. You don't got to worry about the stuff like it's mostly water. Like you know what I mean. You have an hour. I mean, I think watermelon's a fair answer.
Not the biggest watermelon guy.
What about? Would you consider soup? It's a lot of soup. 5 pounds.
It's a lot of soup. So I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can do that.
Do you think it's acceptable to say fried chicken So, but like you're kind of cheating because the bones are factored into the weight, but you're obviously not eating that weight.
Yeah, that doesn't count. It has to be all food. It
5
has to be
pounds
like
of
5
consumption.
pounds of consumption. Yeah,
Right.
you can't. Yeah, so what are you gonna do? Like get like a, like one of these like tomahawk steaks or whatever. Like, the big bones.
I'm sticking with watermelon. I thought about like pudding or something, or like rice.
Well, RJ, we want to hear from the listeners on this topic.
Okay.
So what would you eat if you had to eat 5 pounds of something for
in an
$1
hour?
million?
That's the thing. It has to happen. It's not just like a day. In 1
How about
hour.
this? NFC Feast.
Whoa!
Hashtag NFC Feast. That's the F. NFC Feast for your answer to this question, and tag me at Brandon Gowton and tag RJ Ochoa at RJ Ochoa on Twitter and Instagram.
Wow. What a great moment for you. Wow.
This was a strong show by me. I feel good about this one.
You were really, and like you were really diplomatic. I thought like you came in and you were like, hey, I got to give the Cowboys credit, got to give Dak credit, got to give McCarthy credit. Still couldn't get you to give the Vikings like a semblance of credit, but that's not my cross to bear. So I'm okay with that.
I'm well rested coming off the bye, just like the Eagles. I was chilling, got some things done that I hadn't had a chance to get to in a while. So it's good. Got to hang out a little bit. It's good times.
What did you think? Last question of the trailer for The Mandalorian during the Cowboys game?
I did not see So I watched the game with Holden, and I was kind of talking to him, and so I didn't fully see it and take it in. I'm working through Andor still right now. Definitely a slower start, but it's picking up. I'm liking it more than I thought I was at the beginning of the season.
I don't know if I told you this. I talked about it on our postgame show a few times. My wife and I decided to watch all of the Star Wars material, but she wanted to do in timeline order. She hadn't seen a lot of it, and I have never done it that way, and I was kind of skeptical. You know what I mean? Because I thought it would be weird to have all this modern stuff, and then you get to the older movies. Mm-hmm. I got to say, it hits hard. This is the way to do it. I would not recommend any other way. So I haven't seen all of Book of Boba Fett. But we're at that now. But going straight into that after episode 6 was nice. And so watching Andor when we did was really, really, really nice. So I highly recommend timeline order to anybody. Yeah.
I do have a problem. Problem might be a strong word. I do think it's a little annoying. Disney's approach to the I forget where I heard this term from, different podcasts, the Wikipedia filling entry levels of their content. It's we need to fill this story. We have to fill this story. And it's maybe you don't always need to do that. But my question for you, as we riff here at the end of the podcast, is how would you feel about doing that with the Marvel movies? Because I was getting into back during the pandemic, I guess spring of 2020. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into the MCU movies. I'd seen Black Panther. I'd seen Winter Soldier. No, the first Captain America, I think.
The first Avenger.
Yeah, right. I'd seen those. I'd seen a couple. I'd seen parts of the first Avengers movie. But some people suggest that you should watch it in the chronological MCU
timeline order, right?
In terms of where the events transpired. But I watched it in the order of release order. How do you feel about that?
So Marvel's obviously on the up and up the way, Star Wars is, right? You're talking advanced level storytelling. This isn't just some, silly little one-off franchise or whatever. I really like the timeline order, dude. I think there are things that I feel confident would have gone over my head if we had done them in release order. And certain characters and just tiny little things that just give you a deeper sense of appreciation for everything. I will say, these hobbies are becoming too difficult.
It's a good job.
That's what I'm saying. There's too many. I haven't seen She-Hulk as an example. It's
I liked it.
But it's you got to watch that to appreciate this one scene in this one movie that will come out in the future. That's a lot of responsibility.
Well, Loki, not to spoil things for people, I won't get too into it, but Loki, certainly the TV series is
right.
Disney Plus series is certainly like that.
I agree with you. And now it's I kind of hate that you ever heard the expression when David Akers was the field goal kicker for the Eagles, I didn't even have to watch. I would go to the bathroom and get a drink when David Akers was kicking field goals. A similar sort of thing is I can't even bounce when the credits start anymore. It's I hate this culture that's put the scene in the movie. Why do I have to sit? You're taking more of my time now. I don't like that idea.
I kind of like staying after the just because I don't like getting up when everyone gets up and you're trying to like fight people.
But everyone is doing it. Like
not everyone. No, not everyone. You get casuals who kind of leave. But yes, I get your point. A lot of people still do. And honestly, and then they'll do the double credit posting credit scene. But so then like you have to sit even longer.
I know.
You sit there, see the credit, and then you have to wait longer. Yeah, that is. It's also very 2023.
Exactly. Wow. I think we just solved movie making. Watch Glass Onion. I really, really enjoyed that movie. So
I have so many things I have to get to, RJ. I'm still catching up on Andor.
I know that it's slow. I don't know what episode you're on, but you will know when it hits. It hits.
Yeah, I think I'm like 4 or 5 away from the finale. So yeah, it's a good.
But spot. Like the moment where you're gonna be like, holy crap! All right, everybody was right. Like it did pick up. Like you'll know it, and you'll
picked up. Yep.
We didn't talk all pros or anything like that, but it's kind of like yesterday's news at this point. So shout out to all the players who made it. And yeah, let us know what food you would eat 5 pounds of in an hour if you had to. And we look forward to asking Rob Stasker that question on the second edition of the NFC East Mixtape this week. Brandon, as we leave, please let us know your favorite thing about the sun.
I like clouds better.